Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Welcome back. We are in for another episode of Free Talk today where you know how it goes here. We're just free chatting about whatever. Today's episode of Free Talk, I want to talk about Hyrule Warriors, the Age of Calamity, the prequel to Breath of the Wild. Now, this is a bit of a tricky one because Nintendo's always sort of sometimes weird with what's canonical and not canonical. So I think they said that this is not canon. It's like its own little timeline, and like whatever. That's fine. Let's just enjoy it for what it is, right? So anyway, as I said, so with the Switch sunsetting, right? With the Switch sunsetting and coming to an end, I am finding myself returning to some games that I only played once and then I never looked back at again. And one of those games is Age of Calamity. I've been playing that a lot this week, and I gotta say, I've really been enjoying it. I think Age of Calamity is a really good game, and if you're checking this out just to know if this is a game you should check out, I think you should. I think you should check out Age of Calamity, and I'll go into a little more detail about that. So, as I said previously, Age of Calamity is a predecessor, so it is a prequel to Breath of the Wild. It takes place during the war that takes place 100 years prior to Breath of the Wild. So what that means is you get to sort of play out all those sections that you got to see in flashbacks in Breath of the Wild. And I remember when they first showed off this game, that was like the big draw. It was like, oh, we get to actually play the sections we were watching but didn't actually get to interact with. And that was really cool. So obviously your main characters are, you have Zelda, you have Link, you have Impa, and then you have the four champions. So you have Mipha, Revali, Daruk, and Urbosa. So there's more characters, but I don't want to go into like major, like heavy spoiler stuff. I'm gonna try to keep this semi-spoiler free. The footage you're gonna be seeing on screen is pretty early on in the game. It's gonna be like side missions and maybe a little bit of story stuff, but nothing super crazy. I promise. I won't show off the big twists or reveals or anything like that. So yeah, the game when the game came out, I remember a lot of people talked about it. I think a lot of people liked it from what I remember. And then it kind of just fell off the face of the earth. It kind of was like, okay, the game's out, and we're gonna move on, and we're gonna stop talking about this game now, and we're gonna focus on something else instead. Though, unfortunately, I do think that's how a lot of games are nowadays, where they sort of come out, people play them, then you forget about them, and then you move on to the next thing, but that's a story for another day. So, Age of Calamity plays like a Dynasty Warriors game. So, for those who are unfamiliar, they're kind of these over-the-top hack-and-slash games where you're fighting like hundreds and thousands of enemies, and you can take them all down with like a single swing of your sword, right? And I feel like for this plot, for Age of Calamity and the big war before the fall of Hyrule, I feel like that makes a lot of sense, because there's going to be like a ton of enemies, a ton of moblins, a ton of all those monsters, and you're gathering your team and you're fighting them. And the most part, the game plays like a Dynasty Warrior game, but it does still have this Breath of the Wild magic to it. Like, the game looks like Breath of the Wild. I don't know if it's running on the same engine. I highly doubt it. I'm assuming this is some special like Muso Dynasty Warriors engine it's running off, and they just adapted it to Breath of the Wild's likelihood or likeliness, I should say, and they did a great job with that. So the game looks great. It doesn't run the best. For the most part, it runs at 30 frames, that's fine. But when stuff gets crazy, like if Urbosa starts like shooting her lightning out and stuff, you're gonna see some frame drops. I'm kind of hoping we get a patch for it in Switch 2. It does look like the follow-up, Age of Imprisonment, which takes place before Tears of the Kingdom, will be running at a much more solid frame rate, so that's really cool. So that's a plus. Combat-wise, it plays sort of like Breath of the Wild, but way faster. So you have like strong attacks, you have light attacks, but you can still do stuff like Z-target. Well, it's not Z-targeting, but you know what I mean. You can like target the enemy. You can parry if you have a shield. So characters like Link and Urbosa can parry because they have shields. So you can still like parry Guardian laser beams, which is really cool. And then Link specifically has a bunch of different play styles. You can play with like a single sword. I meant a one-handed sword, like a two-handed weapon, or like a spear. Just like in Breath of the Wild, he has different weapons he could use. I kind of wish that went for all the other characters. Unfortunately, it really doesn't. I think there's one other character who has more than one weapon type. That is unfortunately it. Because if you, funny enough, if you compare it to the OG Hyrule Warriors, which that game is awesome too. I believe multiple characters have multiple different weapons, so I was kind of hoping they'd bring that back for this, but hey, that's okay. It's still pretty cool. Now, I don't mean this as an insult to the game at all, but I do find the game slightly mindless. And sometimes that's great, especially if you're stressed and you need to kind of turn your brain off, or if you're trying to like de-stress from work or kind of maybe getting ready to go to bed. This is a really good game to pick up and play because a lot of the chapters, a lot of the challenges can be finished pretty quickly. So you could probably pick the game up, play it for 20 minutes, put it right back down. So for that aspect, it's really good. It's also great to play if you're like watching TV in the background, or if you have like a podcast on. If you're just playing simple missions about defeating X amount of enemies in X amount of time, you're gonna have fun because there's a lot to keep you busy. So yeah, if you're into like sort of like the checklist stuff and racking up high numbers, this is gonna be a really cool game, and I'd highly recommend it for that reason. Now, the other reason I'd recommend it is now hear me out on this one. Typically, Zelda games are not known for their cutscenes and their cinematic storytelling, right? If we go all the way back to something like A Link to the Past, it's just all text dialogue. And then, you go something to like Ocarina of Time and we start seeing cutscenes, and, Majora's Mask made it more personal, but there was never really voiced. So there's always like, it always kind of feels like something's a little bit missing. And you play Breath of the Wild. And I remember seeing the trailer and I'm like, holy crap. They are talking in the cutscenes. They're fully voiced. Like, it's super cinematic. It kind of took what Skyward Sword did, but added voice acting, because from a narrative and cinematic lens, I think Skyward Sword is very, very, very good in that sense. So, you play Breath of the Wild, and then I find out, like, wow, a lot of these scenes aren't actually voiced. There's only, like, very specific cutscenes that are voiced. Most of the game is just typical text dialogue you're reading. And I was a little let down by that. I was like, okay, whatever, it's Zelda, I get it, moving on. Then you play Age of Calamity. There are a ton of cutscenes in this game. There's a lot. Let me warn you, there's a lot of cutscenes in this game. But they're fun because you get to see these characters like fully voiced, talking to each other, interacting with each other. Something I feel like is rare in a Zelda game. You don't sort of see this stuff. And to me, that was really cool. I love seeing narrative storytelling in a Zelda series. I just think it's so cool. And I hope we continue to see more of this style. I really do. But yeah, there you go. Not a lot, just a little spiel on Age of Calamity. Like I said, I've been playing it. I'd highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. If you're looking for more of like Zelda goodness, you're looking for more lore, you're looking for more time with these characters, and you kind of want to see some cool cutscenes, highly recommend Age of Calamity. I think it's a lot of fun, and I'm personally looking forward to Age of Imprisonment. Also, look at this. Link eats rocks in this game. If that's not a reason enough to buy this, I don't know what is. Or play it. You could always just buy it, play it, rent it, borrow it from a friend, get it however you can get it. Give it a shot, in my opinion. If you like Zelda, if you like Muso, I think it's cool. Yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm looking forward to Age of Imprisonment and what more they're going to do for this series. If they're going to continue on this sort of Breath of the Wild-esque narrative, or if we're going to get a brand new timeline or a brand new thing next. I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's it, my friends. That's all. I just kind of wanted to yap a little about Age of Calamity. I think it's really cool. I do believe when it came out, I believe it was, people enjoyed it. It just kind of left the limelight really fast. So yeah, this is a cool one. It's a great game. Has a really cool story, and it is great to have in the background if you're listening to a podcast or watching TV. Yeah, and if you like racking up a lot of kills and scores and time attack stuff like that, a lot of fun little like challenges in this game. I think you should check out. But yeah, that's it. That's enough for me yapping. I think on this episode of Free Talk. I want to thank you all for hanging out. And hey, if you stuck around this long, why don't you subscribe? I'd really appreciate it because this is what we like to do here. We like to talk about our favorite video games. We like to yap about them and chat about them and until we eventually shut up about them. So yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for listening to me yap about Age of Calamity for a little bit. Let me know if have you checked out Age of Calamity? Have you played it? If you have, let me know what you thought of it. If you haven't, maybe you're avoiding it for some reason. Let me know why it's not your style. Let me know. And last time I asked, hey, what was your favorite Link? Tell me now what your favorite version of Zelda is. What's your favorite version of Zelda? That's a tough question, right? So I'm gonna pick an answer that's gonna throw some of you. I'm gonna say Hyrule Warriors, the OG Hyrule Warriors Zelda. I love that design in general. I just think it's a really cool design. But if I'm not going with that one, I'd probably go with Skyward Sword, just because the relationship between her and Link is really cool. Anyway, we're yapping way too much here, so let's wrap up. Anyway, guys, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me yap your ears off. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care and be good to each other. Bye-bye.